is just pay the fucking tax man. Always pay the tax man, because like it comes in, have a separate account ready and send off the VAT, because that is not your money. That is not to sit in your account. It's false economy. And that caught me so many times where I'm like, right, I need to pay these people. I'll pay the VAT out. I'll pay them with the VAT because this, and this. And then the VAT comes around and they're like, yeah, well, we'll close everything down in a week if you don't pay us.
Hey, I'm Jay Woodard. I am a creative director, photographer and videographer of the Ed32 agency based in the south of Ireland in Cork.
Hi, I'm Judie Russell. I'm a video coach and founder of the Vid Academy.
Hi, I'm Jen Bryan and I'm the co-founder and chief marketing officer of a digital marketing agency called Velocity Growth.
Hi, I'm Sian Horn. I'm a business mentor and coach. I'm also the founder of the national network for women in business called The Club. And I also am the ambassador for Champion Green.
Hello and welcome to Unbranded episode 5. I'll be your host this week from a cruise for floor number 15 of the P&O Azora. I don't know if there have been many podcasts done on a cruise before, but I definitely have never made my own like little setup on a ship. Luckily, we are in Fuerteventura port, so I'm able to personal hotspot. Brought my mic with me, brought my laptop, using a phone as the video camera, and everything is just kind of plugged in together. And I don't know, hopefully it's going to work anyway. So this week we are going to talk about, specifically, we're going to kind of make these podcasts a little bit more themed, and we're going to start on the theme of money, which is a controversial topic, I think, for everyone, even, you know, especially, I don't know, especially Irish people, but a lot of us find it difficult to talk about money, and it's kind of the last thing that gets pushed to the side. But what we'll talk about is our highlights, our lowlights, something that we wish that someone taught us sooner, and our future hopes for money. So Jay, I'll go with you first. Give me your money highlight. It can be over this week or over the course of your life.
Money highlights. This year we'll break 7 figures in the agency. Or sorry, not 7, Jesus Christ, 6 figures, excuse me. 6 figures in my agency, which is a proper first for us. So yeah, delighted with that. That's a big highlight for us, and it's a goal I was aiming for since I started the agency. So like I say agency, it's just me, and I have some contractors, which I'm delighted with. So that, yeah, that's a highlight for me for this year anyway.
Amazing, Jay. And like, okay, so 6 figures, that's a huge target to reach. How long did it take you, would you say, to get to 6 figures?
Since I launched in January 2020. So what's that now?
That's
3
not
years,
a long
yeah.
time.
So it's just, you know what, I'm lucky because the way I've structured the business is I have 3 main retainer clients who pay me a certain amount per month. Then I know that's coming in, guaranteed that's coming in, and I touch base with them, and they have designated hours and time and shoots per month. And anything that's on top is kind of golden. But once you have that base of knowing that a certain amount of thousands coming in, right, now I can play, or I can go off and do what I want to do, or I can try and get more work. And obviously at the moment I'm trying to get more work, which is great, you know.
Wonderful. Really cool. Sian?
I hate talking about money, in the sense of, I suppose it frustrates me in a sense, like actually, and Jay not having a go here, but like I hate those terms of we hit 6 figures, because every business can hit 6 figures, but if they spend 6 figures, they haven't made any money. And I think there's a lot that goes on online, especially with the people that I work with. And they're like, but this person says I've got to hit a 10K month, and they're hitting 10K months. And I'm like, yeah, but if they're spending 10K, like no one's talking about like, you know, so for me, it's like money, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Hit the 6 figures, hit the 7, do whatever. But actually all I'm interested in is the profit that the company has made. And actually I was in a meeting last night with somebody else that kind of works in creation, and the business person said how much they were taking a month. And he said, well, he has got, and then he said, the creator said to me, that guy has budget. And I said, why do you say that? He's just said to us, he doesn't have budget. He needs organic to start off. And he said, because he takes X amount per month. And I said, yes, but if he's spending that, he still has no budget. So I think when it comes to money, like, I don't really have a highlight. You know, I'm not someone that wants to buy a yacht. However, I do want to travel. And so my highlight always is I've done fine. I've done okay because I've done everything that I wanted to do this year. But my highlights don't come from cash. You know, my highlight last week is I got to interview Chupi, who I've admired for such a long, long time in business. And I got to sit next to her and I got to facilitate her telling her story. That didn't cost me any money. And I didn't get paid either. But do you know what? It was worth every second I sat there for. So money is a hard one for me, and I've definitely got a problem with it. I definitely need to go to one of those money coaches. But I have got so much better at this year. I have, in the last 6 months, been paid what I deserve for what I do.
100%. And Jen?
Mine's going to be completely different to you, Sian. I'm going to dive right in where Jay did. I guess money for me has always been kind of a strange thing. As in, like, I didn't grow up in a family that had much money, so the concept of large amounts of money was always very alien to me, and it's right up even to a few years ago. But I guess my highlight around it was the opportunity I got to raise capital in the US, and that is a very different playing field to what we see typically here in Ireland. Like, it feels almost surreal to say that, you know, we've got some of the leading investors in the world backing Velocity Growth, including like people who've invested, early investors in Uber, you know, massive companies across the world back us. And that is certainly an alien concept. And it's certainly the reason why we've been able to scale, you know, rapidly into kind of the 7-figure mark. And it's kind of an overwhelming experience in many senses, because you're looking at spreadsheets with numbers that feel surreal to even look at. And then in the same breath, you have, you know, significant fiduciary responsibility to investors. You've got to hit those 15 to 20% month over month growth. You can't sacrifice the quality of work. You've got to balance the expenses, which are vastly different to a typical bootstrapped company. And bootstrap just means that you're paying for it yourself rather than an investor backing. But when the investors give you money, you have this upfront expense that you have to spend in order to grow above and beyond it. So that structure of growing a business is different. It's exciting. It's been a highlight for me in my career to date. But the numbers look great. The stress is on par. More money, more problems. Like, it's true.
Absolutely. And you know, I think that I was maybe one of the few people who grew up with money in Ireland in the 80s. My parents had a successful business. I talk about this in all my workshops. And like, we had a pool, a swimming pool and a sauna and this house overlooking Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and they had big parties, and it was all lots of, like, you know, lavish holidays and stuff like that. And then we lost it all when my parents separated. So I went from like riches to rags, like the opposite way, but we did end up kind of a bit more fulfilled or something like that. Like, there wasn't as much, I suppose it was the opposite way. So for me then, you know, I was interested in money, but it never was really a big goal. So I think, like, what's more important is living within your means. And I think you learn that when you travel, especially. It's like, how do you kind of not have massive outgoings, so then your incomings aren't as important anymore? But my highlight was definitely, like, you know, I was self-employed like a lot of the time, but I could never make it work. Like, I was making a TV show, a half-an-hour TV show a week, Jay, on a budget of 750 quid, like, and it was going out in Sky, and I was broke, like, and I was working 6.5 days a week. So I was like, this isn't working. I can't make money out of video land. It's not working at all. So I went back to and got a proper job as a business analyst, and then kind of worked my way up to a project manager. But I hated it. Like, I just couldn't stand working for the man, you know, and it wasn't even the man, it was public sector. But I was like, I have to go out on my own. So I went from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days to 2 days, to the point where it was like, okay, really, there's no point in me showing up anymore. But that was over 4 years, you know. And Jen, I saw like Jen put out a post on Instagram stories today, and it was like, what's stopping you from starting up a business? And this is how we came up with the theme for this show, because money was the main thing that was stopping people. And like, you know, like sometimes you can't just leave your job tomorrow and start your business. Sometimes you just have to kind of navigate your way through, okay, how do I reduce back time, start setting up a business? And it doesn't always have to be investor driven, or it's just like your own pocket money trying to buy a camera.
Completely. And even before, I mean, I went out of my own, like, it doesn't seem like a huge amount of time because it wasn't, but like about 6 or 8 months before I ever had the opportunity to do any of the investor stuff. And I remember at the time being like, I'm going to start side hustling and get enough clients until it matches my wage at the time.
Nice.
So I remember just like working into the evening, or 5 o'clock would hit, and then I would just keep on working until both were equal to each other. And then I was like, okay, well, I won't starve now.
And I've got to say, like, I'm not knocking any figures here. Like, I know how hard Jay has worked. I know how hard Jen has, do you know what I mean? But I think, like, we can talk about, we've hit this figure, but I also want to talk about the hard graft you put in to get there. You know, it didn't happen overnight, you know, and the retainers just didn't come. They came because you're superb at what you do, and you're at the best of what you do. And I think that's where I get a bit sticky with just putting up 6-figure, 7-figure
headlines, just headlines. Yeah.
It's clickbait.
Absolutely, 100%. So, and I think that can really knock other people's confidence. And I suppose what I'm always trying to do is give people I've never started any of my businesses with money. Most of them have started off writing off the back of a fag packet. They've all been very successful. I've sold two businesses very successfully, and one in the middle of a recession. But I really worked.
That's what no one sees. Like, I can sit here and say, you know, we raised money from the top investors in the world. No one sees the fact that I was like pitching at 2:30 in the morning Irish time because they were based in LA. I wired right through the night. Then you can't sleep for the rest of the day. Then a 12-hour shift trying to bring in enough clients to try make up the MRR so that your next pitch has the same potential as the one before, because if you don't meet that deadline, you're not going to get more money. And it's like no one sees the 2 bags under your eyes that Ryanair are going to charge you extra for if you try to get on a flight, and it's just going in circles like that. Like no one sees the
absolutely
unsexy patience, tears, the sheer tiredness and exhaustion that actually goes into all of that.
Even that, Jen, like when people don't see them, like I'm saying retainer clients and this kind of stuff, but before I had retainer clients and at the early days, there are months where I made €1,000 and I have a family to feed and I'm trying to fucking swim. I'm borrowing money off my parents, and next month I'll get 4,000 in. I'm trying to pay people back that I like. Do you know what I mean? It was just a recurring, just it's a vicious circle. If like any like, and then we'll touch on it, but like something that caught me early and it was stupid and it's a life lesson I learned is just pay the fucking tax man. Always pay the tax man, because like it comes in, have a separate account ready and send off the VAT, because that is not your money. That is not to sit in your account. It's false economy. And that caught me so many times where I'm like, right, I need to pay these people. I'll pay the VAT out. I'll pay them with the VAT because this, and this. And then the VAT comes around and they're like, yeah, well, we'll close everything down in a week if you don't pay us. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, I think it's just learning and gathering experience and just having those punches in the face and having those scares that kind of make you learn the hard way. In my opinion.
You siphon it off. Like, I pay a direct debit once a month. I'm always ahead of the game when it comes to that. And the only reason being, actually, when I opened my first business, I had a really nice accountant. It was my next door neighbour's brother's wife or whatever it was. You know, everybody's got the mate next door or the cousin's uncle. And he forgot to put in my return. So I got audited for 3 years running. I was 2 years in business. You have to pay for those audits. So they cost me $2,000 a year on top of obviously what I was paying anyway. But it taught me it wasn't wasn't my fault. However, I should have known better. And that's why I never work with family friends, although I love them. But it's such a good lesson. But yeah, I do a little direct debit, and then it's so lovely at the end of the year. And they're like, oh, sometimes they owe me. It's fair, but most of the time I owe them. But it's only a couple of £100.
So yeah, that's a great idea, because I don't like direct debits. I never have. I rarely have any direct debits from my account coming out. I never like them. I always like to know how much I have, and I like to pay it out, and I like to see it gone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once that VAT bill comes in, let's say it's €100 and there's €23 VAT, that €23 is siphoned off and sent to the other account immediately. It's just I have it all set up in my IB where the VAT account is there, so I just send it, and it's just handy for me. It's just, I'm sick of the VAT, man, because like,
guys,
yeah.
Do you know what the beauty of being an American company is?
No VAT.
No fucking VAT.
Oh my God.
How does that work?
Oh my God.
Vast majority of our clients are stateside. Most of the work is done within the US itself as well. So billing is done through American to American, essentially. So the team that works in the US, it's a US bank account. We're a Delaware C Corp. We're not an Irish registered company. Yeah. Everything invoiced, shipped through the US. It's only work that is serviced in Ireland for Irish clients that has VAT specifically, but
I actually, sorry, and I'm probably being a complete thick. Are you telling me that you don't pay VAT in America? They don't pay?
No, they don't have VAT.
Oh my God. So, okay.
Yeah.
They don't have sales tax, essentially. Yeah, but
no, to be fair, they don't have healthcare either. So let's kind of balance that out.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what I mean? That's so, well, technically we do. Do you know what I mean? But that's the whole thing. Like,
but they have the corporation taxes where you get caught. And actually, I think this is my own personal opinion, as I have no strong actual opinions on the American economy and how it works. But essentially, the capital tax. So at the end of the year, you pay your, what is it in Ireland, like 12% or something?
Yeah, 12.5%.
If you have profits in your account, you pay 12.5% on it. In the US, it's 55%. So it's a dramatic difference. So American companies are actually heavily incentivized to balance their like even debt. So you'll even see like the bigger companies that have like already IPO'd, they're on the stock market and stuff. When you look at their balance sheets, things actually look a lot shitter than they probably are, because they probably have enough capital or revenue to pay down all of these different loans. But they will try strike a balance between expenditure being very, very heavy against their actual revenue coming in, because what's the point? They're going to pay 55% of it out anyway. And that's where you get things like Apple coming in, setting up in Dublin, shipping back a license fee to the US so that the license fee meets roughly how much they made, so that they don't pay any tax in America, and it all goes through Ireland. So like that's essentially the workarounds there. But American companies are heavily incentivized not actually to be profitable.
Oh my God. And like when the tax year, when you're doing your taxes at the end, you're like, God, I should have bought more things. You know?
I know.
But you know, like I'd actually, yeah, you really should. And like, I really want to talk about something in the Teach Me Something New part that I didn't realize before. But before that, what fucks you off about money in general? Jen, I'll go for you first.
Oh God, there's so many things. I don't know where to start. I think what fucks me off most about money is if an invoice comes in, I'll pay it on time. I would expect the same in return. But we work very flexibly. So like we invoice at the end of the month to like 30-day payment terms, sometimes 60-day payment terms, depending on like the company and how they're structured. We tend to bend depending on how they work internally as well. But I am obviously catching up on my invoices now just throughout the year, just to see, you know, it's just that time of year. It's crap where you have to kind of go through all of the invoices, figure out what's not been paid. And you're like, oh, hello. You know, we've been working for you since May. Here's all your invoices since that haven't been caught up. So, I mean, it does cause cash flow issues too when you tot it up and you're like, payroll is also in a couple of weeks and we're outstanding X, thousand in invoices from past back along. We've been really lucky that that's not been the case for a lot of businesses that we work with. And we've also, been unfortunately in the position where, because we work heavily in the startup environment where people are investor backed, sometimes they just go out of business. You know, a lot of people are just going to go out of business in their first year, and, you know, you can be left hanging with a few invoices, and that's certainly happened as well. To be honest, when that's the case, it's crap. But you also are like, oh, that's also really, really shit for them, because I can't imagine the pain of that to like your startup that you've put everything into. You've convinced investors and everything else, and it's still kind of fallen flat. That's probably a really difficult position to be into.
Yeah, that does suck. I know. Sian, what about you?
What fucks me up about money? People don't use it. I'm sick of people using cards all the time. I hate the old tapping. I'm always trying to encourage people, especially when they're purchasing from small businesses, to actually use cash so that they don't have to pay the 1 or 2% that goes everywhere. Because every time we do that, obviously by the time you've spent 50 quid 20 times, it's now 25 quid. And people are always like, oh, because cash is king. And does that mean they're not paying their tax? And I'm like, no, that's not the point. It's the fact that everybody gets a piece of the pie when you use a card. When you use cash, at least the business is getting the whole shebang, I should say. So yeah, I want people to use cash. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Certainly that's the way that people, and the direction I feel that people want to go in. So I'm really encouraging people to use cash this Christmas. Please do. It's really important. Otherwise it will disappear.
Did you see that young fella who was on the toy show, Shamey, and he's after getting really popular? He was on some radio station there, and I don't know if he was like, if it's not paper, I don't take it, or something like that.
Johnny's.
I was like, what a legend. But yeah, I think you're totally right. And, you know, especially with the digital currencies and stuff like that, and, you know, when crypto for a while now, there's going to be the central bank digital currencies and stuff like that. Like, it's all kind of fictional figures on this fictional ledger that we all have access to, but like, you know, it could be changed, it can be wiped out. What happened in Greece all that time ago? Like it's a very, like, when you have the cash, like the little like chunks of money, you know what you have, you know what you can do. Like it's very, very volatile, I think, economy without it.
Oh, absolutely. Completely. But go ahead, Sian.
No, I just like, you know, if you've turned over 6 figures this year, wouldn't it be nice to turn over the whole of the 6 figures? Do you know what I mean? Rather than Stripe getting a bit of it and the bank getting a bit of it, and then you lose your card, they charge you a tenner for that, and then there's a tenner to let's give them all the money. Yeah,
but we had our bank scare earlier in the year because we were with Silicon Valley Bank when the US bank crashed, and all of our assets were frozen. You know, we were looking at what we could pull, what we could sell from other accounts, figuring out like anything we could do to make payroll that month. And we did make payroll that month, and it wasn't for lack of having money. It was that we couldn't fucking touch it. We couldn't pull a single penny from the account. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't pay an invoice. Our credit card was getting declined left, right and center, even though there was money sitting there. We had more in the account than what was insured at the time. Which is, you know, a common thing that people don't even realize, especially if you're using something like Revolut. I think they only insure up to a certain amount, and Revolut Business is very like commonplace. Yeah, and Revolut Business, it's you know, it's something just to keep an eye on. I'm the kind of person who would have been like, whatever, like, you know, pick a bank, I don't care. But actually, now once you've had a big scare, you tend to turn things around pretty quickly. Now we have 3 bank accounts just in case.
Yeah,
that's the way forward.
But Sian, I can't remember the last cash gig I had being in my business, and I'm sure you guys might not the same. Like, there's no cash in my world. Like, do you know what I mean?
No. In my world, there isn't. You know, I have a Pilates studio that's pre-book online. In my world, they book their appointment, they pay. But if I go into a local shop, or if I go in, I do my best always. I always have cash on me, actually, these days. I think I said to you a few weeks back, I made a conscious effort to take €200 out and kind of have that in my bum bag, because I love a bum bag. I actually have a bum bag, Jude.
I do too. They're fantastic, by the way. That's the one tip people take away from this episode, is get a bum bag, especially when you're traveling.
No, it's not. Nerds.
No, I was going to say.
My husband called it a carny bag, and I didn't know what that meant. And he said it's because I looked like I was working on the waltzers. And then I was actually listening to Abby Clancy's podcast this week, and she was giving out about her husband going, he bought me an effing bum bag. Like, I'm 40. I was like, oh my God, I'm 52. Get over it, girl. They're amazing. But yeah, I always carry cash where I can in the local shop. I just make a conscious effort because it makes a real big difference.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's what's wrong with where the world is going. Well, what's wrong with the world? But it is that we don't make enough conscious decisions. We're kind of, we're so busy that we're just kind of like suit the system and just go along with everything. So I think it is harder, and it gets harder to make conscious efforts, but it does actually, that's the change then that causes changes in things. And Jay, what fucks you off about money?
It fucks me off when, like Jen said, if people don't pay invoices on time, what it does, it causes a ripple effect. It causes a ripple effect in the scenario of, right, imposter syndrome kicks in sometimes with me saying, right, why aren't they paying on time? Is it something I've done? And then questioning, if I approach them too aggressively, I'll lose them as a client. This kind of thing. And then also, I have people to pay. And then they're chasing me for invoices. And I'm saying, guys, I'm chasing invoices, I'll let you know. And I hate, as we said, I think it's an Irish thing, because like there's UK companies I've dealt with and American companies, it's black and white, it's money, this is this. But like, I'm chasing a client now at the moment, and it's a chunk of change, to be fair, and it's a big project. And I've got an email recently saying, in the last day or two, I'm still fighting it. I was onto the accountant this morning trying to get advice on what to do. Like, it's a few €1,000 before Christmas that would be nice for the account, pay off everything, pay off everyone, have a nice Christmas. And then I got an email saying, this person is in the office till next year, so we'll pay it next year. I have to get approval from them. And I'm like, so you're telling me the entire business is shut down because this person left the office? Like, your staff are being paid, you're being paid. Like, so this whole thing, so it pisses me off, because Alan, our accountant, myself and Shan's accountant, is brilliant in the scenario. He's like, no, fuck that. No, hold on a second now. They're being paid. Why aren't you being paid? Like, and he's dead right. I need that sometimes, because I do. Imposter syndrome kicks in. I'm like, oh no, it's grand. Sure, it would be nice in January to get paid. He's like, fuck that. Now we'll get that sorted. We'll get that paid, because that's not good enough. And he's dead right. Like, do you know what I mean? He's dead right, and I appreciate. I love that he'd say, no, Jay, you have to get paid. Like, everyone else is getting paid. Why aren't you getting paid? You know. So it's just that I hate that the feeling it sets in you, that you're like, right, why haven't I being paid? Do you know? Yeah. And as Alan said, as he said. But what he said was 2 seconds. What he said was, it's not the fact you're not being paid; it's the question mark that will get you. Why you're not being paid? Do you know what I mean? If they said, right, this is not, it's the question mark around it, which made a lot of sense. My terms, this is what threw me. They're a regular client of mine, and it's a 3-month rolling contract. We've already done several. I've been with them for nearly a year and a half. The last 4 months ago, they paid the same invoice, the same scenario. The time came around, it was greenlit again. The marketing manager contacted me and said, yeah, let's go again. I said, perfect. She said, invoice. I did. And all of a sudden, froze. Now, I understand there's some issues with the person's not there, they're away. I get that. But the business doesn't freeze because someone's away. Do you know what I mean? And they're not freezing every other invoice. It's not. There must be something around, you know?
It's the size of the company, I'd say. If somebody has to sign something off and they're away, unfortunately, sometimes it can't be signed off. Like, if I work with a larger corporate, that's happened to me before. If I'm working with small business, it's so easy because you're always talking to the person at the top of the list. But
I would say, Shan, this is I'd say a close to 7-figure business.
So the person that okayed it last time is the person that's off.
Yes. Well, I've never heard of them okaying it before. I don't want to give too much detail. Do you know what I mean?
No. Sorry, it was only that you said the sales and marketing manager said yes.
So that's what it was. This person's away, and I don't know if they're back before Christmas or not. Whatever the story is there, but the fact that one person has to prove something, it just irks me, and it's just like, no, I have some movement on it, so waiting to see what happens with it. But look, it is what it is.
I think that's the most awkward size of a business, where like, when we started going towards that point, I remember being like, do we need like an accountant in house? Like, what's happening now? Because like, before, our credit card was a little bit of a free for all for anyone on the team. It'd be like, you need that subscription, go for it. You need this, you need that. Like, I didn't know what I did the credit card a couple of days ago, and I was looking at, I think I cleared hundreds of dollars of subscriptions. I was like, what even is this? What's happening? What's going on? And it does get to like this weird tipping point where you need like someone to suddenly be like, no, control all of this. Now we have a little form. You have to fill this out. Why do you want the subscription? What do you want it for? Is it only for a certain period of time? Like, you know, there's plenty of subscriptions that were in there that was like, oh, I used that once because I just needed it for that client. Yeah, but it's been running 6 months now. What are you doing? And it all adds up. But like that, we've gotten someone kind of part-time in, but they don't have the full control of like signing things off like that. But I know that that's going to be like next-ish kind of steps to get someone in like that. But like that freaks me out then, because I actually need the team to be able to move at speed as well, because I don't want to be that person in the situation not paying that invoice because Tommy that we've hired is off, or, you know, there's got to be, it's just a problem in the back of my mind that I'm thinking of. I actually have no conclusion to what I'm saying, only that I'm just saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Talking.
But in that scenario, Jen, Tommy's off, so you make the call. Do you know what I mean? It has to be somewhere where there has to be a kind of a level here. Look, what it was, it's irked me. It's a week and a half before Christmas. Yeah. It's a nice contract. And it's a customer that I've dealt with for a long time. And it's just, I didn't expect it from them. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that's what just got me.
Especially because, like, I think the shitty time of year always, like, irks it up as well. I mean, it's just one of those things.
So, that's what kind of irks me about money, is just the question. I always find that money makes me question myself and my abilities, which I hate.
And, yeah, and you know, that would be exactly my low light, or the thing that fucks me off the most about money is the feelings that come with it. Like, you know, like I'm sitting there, I'm having a nice day, and I'm like, shit, what am I going to do next month now or next year or something like that? And then I'm like, maybe it would be more responsible if I just go and get a job with a pension, a permanent pensionable job. Do you know that kind of way? Like these things are just like constantly creeping around in your mind when you're filling up petrol, or when you're, you know, like on the phone to your friend, you're like, maybe I should be doing something else. Oh God, what should I be doing? But like, and I think I used to have a more diversified income. I used to have different income streams coming in, and that made me feel very comfortable. And then when it kind of all became one kind of pot of where the money comes from, I'm like, oh, I don't like relying on this. So like, you know, I kind of need to get out of it. But I think the issue is rarely money. Like, you know, when was the last time you were cold and hungry? Like, you know, we all have enough to kind of eat. It's the head stuff that gets you about money. It's the stuff that keeps you up at night, that makes you worry, that makes you question yourself. Like you, Jay, that makes you think that maybe you're not good enough at your job. That's why you're not earning, or that's why they're not paying you. Like all of these creepy things just like get into our brains and ruin us. And then the other thing that fucks me off is the idea of manifesting money, just sitting on your hole and just like being like, money is trickling towards me and stuff like that. I'm like, you know, has that worked? If it does work,
that drives me off the fucking wall as well. I am all for a little bit of visualization and like kind of planning your year ahead and this, that, the other. But like your vision board isn't going to make it happen. You still have to fucking do something. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't just sit there and shake the money tree.
What's Sian going to say here? I can see Sian's face.
Looking at her eyes go.
Sian is like, here's my vision board.
Which one do you want? No, I just remember when I first met my husband, because you know how laid back he is, and I'm not at all. So I'd be stressing. And this is actually normally the time of year I stress, because it's in our business, the one we share, it's the quietest time of the year. And I remember him saying, we'd only been together a little while, we were going into business, and he said, don't stress, Jar will always provide. And I remember looking at him going, are you for real? Like, but you know what? He always has. So I stopped stressing about it quite a long time ago. Because
who will always provide?
Huh?
Who will always provide?
Jar. I think it's the reggae sort of Rastafarian ethos. Or what they believe in. I don't know where he picked it from. Anyway, it kind of has always worked for us. And he's like, just keep on the straight and narrow. Don't think about it. Be a good person. Do everything that you need to do for others. It will come back. And only once have I really ever really had to worry too much about money. And that was just because I had someone in my apartment not pay me rent for 2 years. So that was a really bad 2 years. But apart from that, yeah, I stress a little less about it because it is what it is. Like it's going to be what it is. So that if I can't change a situation, I've got to stop worrying about the situation. I know it doesn't make it easier.
Can I ask you a curious question on that?
Yeah.
Do you think not worrying has just given you more headspace to keep working at the things that actually actively change that, rather than just not worrying being part of the solution? Do you get what I mean? I'm not phrasing that right, but you get what I mean.
100%. When you worry so much about something, you become so stuck, you can't move. Yeah. And that's actually what happened to me for a long time.
It's like the flight or fright when you're stuck in that. Whereas if you set that aside, then you're actioning what you were worrying about anyway.
Absolutely. And you just go for it. Like someone was discussing this with me this week. Actually, they were talking about a client of theirs. She's really good, Sian. She's brilliant. And I had a look at the business and I was like, look, she's great and a fabulous business and everything else. But she keeps like advertising stuff and then pulling it because obviously she doesn't feel there's enough people, so she's questioning herself. And the fact of the matter is, you just got to do it. This specific person, and she's not in Ireland, so it's grand, but she'd organised this like network event, cancelled it. And I said, all you need is 2 people. Mm-hmm. You need you and one other person to become a networking session. So why didn't you run it? I need to know why. And it was because she was stuck. She was frightened. There was only 4 or 5 people going. And I said, yeah, but you could have got content to promote your next one from those 5 people. And you've got to start somewhere. It's back to don't compare yourself to chapter 20. You've got to start. First time I did courses, there was 3 or 4 people at them. I don't care. I'm running them. I'm learning every time I do something. So yeah, I think 100%, Jen, couldn't agree with you more. When you stop, it definitely stopped me being stuck. Yeah. Because I could have just not moved out my garden with that bottle of red wine going, this is so bad.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that you should be violently embarrassed at your first version of anything. 100%. If you are not want the world to swallow you up at the thought of your first course or your first Instagram post or your first YouTube video or your first website for your business, then you spent too much time in it, you got stuck, and now you're going in circles.
Yeah.
Just to jump back quickly, just to jump back quickly there, what you said, Jen, as well. When I was closing down the donut shop, I had a donut shop a few years back here. I found myself, and it's something that I always try to say to people in business if I'm working with them, is I found myself, right, I'm short on money, I'm short on income, I need to cut some hours back and I'll do those hours instead and I'll work the shop and I'll do this and I'll clean that and I'll do this. What ended up happening was I was in the trenches. I was working the business and I wasn't working on the business, and that made it go even worse. That made it hit the ground even faster because I couldn't see the future. I was there, I was then and there, right, we made this much today, right, I pay that person, right, this. And I understand it's really tough as a business owner to not be in that scenario. But you have to, as you said, clear some headspace and be able to see the business as an absolute whole. If not, you're just going to get lost. And you're a staff member working in the business and not over the business. As I always say, are you a soldier in the trenches or are you a general looking at the war? You know?
Lovely. Yeah. And that leads us to, I'll go to you first, Jay. Would that be something that you've learned, or the teach me something new thing, or would it be something
and you know what? Yeah, and it's a fucking horrible lesson to learn. It really is. It's not nice. Like, I had severe back issues, like the stress. I am a stress eater closing down a donut shop. What the fuck does that do to you? Do you know what I mean? I was eating most of the goddamn produce, so yeah, it's just pay the taxman on time if you can. If you can just set up, even if you're kind of if that money in your account is not your money, it's false kind of. So pay the taxman if you can straight away out of that, and just like that, if you can. I know it's super tough. Have the bigger picture always in mind. I know you have to work the shop this day. I know you have to. I understand it, but if you can, stay out of the trenches.
Yeah, and I'll go next because it's related to kind of paying your taxes. Why did I not learn this before last year? And you might think I'm thick now that I did not know this, but I was paying a large chunk to the taxman without paying anything into a pension. And then what I realized was I can actually pay a certain amount into the pension and offset my tax bill. So I only just started paying into a pension a year ago, and it's like the same now as I would have paid out at the end of the year anyway. But now I've got something to stand for me. Like, did you all know that? Was I the only one who didn't know that?
I didn't.
Okay, good.
Well,
Thank you.
I only knew, but I think I only knew because I'm a lot older than you.
Thanks, Jan. I'll take that.
They don't teach that kind of stuff properly in school. They don't tell you like cash. Like obviously they give you in the econ classes, they give you kind of headlines and small bits and pieces. But like the majority of people have never run a business. Like teachers, no, some haven't, that kind of stuff, but they're just reading from a book. Like, but you need to, it's a hard lesson. It's hard. You learn very hard lessons very quickly running your own business.
But like I did a master's in economics before, like when I left school, like, and I remember being in Australia and there was a recession at home and someone was like, "Oh, you did economics. What's a recession?" I was like, "I don't know. We never covered that because there was no recession while I was doing my course." Like, you know, people think that like there's so many experts and everything, but like it's impossible to be an expert unless it's a complete niche topic, isn't it? Like it's so even like accountants, because I was asking the guy from Oaktree, Sian, when I was sitting next to him at the awards, I was like, you should be making videos about pensions and how it can offset your tax, because I'm telling the bus driver about this. Like, I'm like, this is so new and amazing to me. And he's like, and I'm like, why don't accountants share that information? I can't remember what he said, but there's a good reason. And it's not that they don't know. It's just like that they don't like the pension brokers or something like that. They kind of see it as competitive or something like that. So it's like, it's not really something that they get into, or it's outside of their area. But I was like, I think that's just fascinating stuff. So look into that. Ask your accountant if you can pay a bit off your pension. It's on if you fill out your own tax forms on the website, there's actually a pension calculator on there and everything, and it's quite easy to do. So I'll go for you next, Sian. Teach me something new about money or anything.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know what I can teach about money. I'm not that great with it. But to me, the pension thing is great. And like one of my businesses, we always run to zero. So we do all of our accounts every 2 months. If there's some, if we're making good profit and whatever, we reinvest it either in the business or in ourselves, and we run to zero. We don't pay capital gains on that business. However, in my business, I put it in the pension. So I think you got to have a good accountant. And if your accountant isn't proactive, and if they are not the one ringing you saying, "I think you actually are entitled to this, have you looked into this?" I'd probably move, because I was with accountants for years that never rang me about anything. Mm-hmm. And at the end, in fact, at the end of the year, they'd be like confusing me with stuff. And I'd be like, no, I know enough. I love figures. I know enough to know that that's not right. And now I work with somebody who's extremely proactive, and that makes a massive difference.
There's two types of accountants. One that work for the taxman and one that work for you. Plain and simple. Find one that works for you.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of them out there that work for the taxman. And like when I had the donut shop, I was very new to business, didn't know what was going on. I settled with this kind of big firm on the South Mall, and I was paying tax. I was like, Jesus, tax is crazy. And then actually I moved to another chap after. He's like, Jesus, they didn't give you anything. They didn't give any leeway to this. They didn't write off this. They didn't do that for you. Like, it was just, and what happened was I got signed up by them, and I was given to some junior executive who was just ticking the boxes, I'm working away, and just find a taxman or find the accountant that works for you and not the taxman.
I had an accountant put through the wrong amount. Like, Elite is a service. They would put me through as 23%. Can you imagine how much money that was over 4 years? Like,
oh my God.
And look,
what should have been 9%?
13.5.
13. That's 10%. Like, that's insane. Like,
no, absolutely. I mean, I spotted it after 6 months, but like, we were with them for 4 years. We would have done that. That would have happened for 4 years.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well done for spotting it. Yeah. Jen?
So I think the most important thing that people don't do is a forward-looking growth model, like the one I put together for this podcast. I don't know if I can share my screen here. Actually, I think I can, but I'll give you a quick look at these are some of our sample ones that we put through for clients. So for anyone listening, it's spreadsheet mayhem is what we're looking at. But like, this is just dummy data in here, but you can come in here and you can like say, oh, I have a subscription model. Okay, how much do I need to grow and get subscriptions month over month, depending on performance. If the subscription is $15, like how long does it take me to get to 1 million? How long does it take me to get to 100,000? What are my expenses going to look like out of that? What if I'm an e-commerce? This is a variation for an e-commerce business. You have like these growth dashboards determining, you know, how many new subscribers could potentially come in, what percentage of them are going through a trial, like a free trial, how many people actually come out the other side of that, what's the actual revenue, what's your churn like? Is churn going to impact how many customers you have over time? How are you acquiring them? How are you keeping them? How are you like, literally, how are you going to activate that customer? How are you going to keep them? And how are you going to experiment to get more? And the model the whole way through in terms of actually like, right, I have an idea. If I'm going to plug this into a spreadsheet and see where it can go, like people just have this wild assumption of what growth looks like. And it's actually chaos.
But in this scenario, Jen, let's say mom and pop shoe store. How do they apply this to their business?
So like it would be very much the transactional model here. So let's say, for example, you need sales. Yeah. So let's say your sales are 12 and your marketing budget is this. You can see here that you're losing money. It's only until, you know, you start crossing a certain amount, you know, you can switch these numbers around to start actually seeing growth. But yeah, it's a sales model instead, where you're looking at month over month growth in sales. And then you might be looking at, instead of activation and retention, which is typically very subscription based metrics, you're looking at reactivation and return customer rate, lifetime value, repeat rates and things like that. And a lot of that will come from the online piece. This is very difficult to actually do in store, because it's just more difficult unless you have a really suave point of sale system that tells you that card has been used before and things like that. But these are the metrics that we tell people to look at when it's in an online scenario. But you've got your experiment models here. Then, you know, how are you going to track those experiments? Test matrices. There's tons of different ways you can do this. I mean, the 4 business types, you're either going to be, you know, a double-sided marketplace, a transactional, subscription. They're kind of the main 3. SaaS typically falls into subscription as well, or you're going to be one-off revenue. So you're either going to be in one of those 4 variations of a growth model.
Would a bookkeeper do that for you, or is that because I can never understand the idea of a bookkeeper? Like, what's the difference between them and an accountant?
I think a bookkeeper is like someone you would have a little bit more in-house, I think, or like kind of part-time that's just doing your books at the end of the month, I believe. But could
they do something like that for you? Could they kind of get the numbers for you like that? I'm guessing they could they? Shan's nodding.
I guess so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have a forecast model I could send to you, Jay, as well. It's a little bit, I don't know whether it's bigger or looks a little bit simpler than that one, but it's very different as well because it's more around sort of average cost per spend. So it works for people in shops and stuff as well. But yeah, your accountant may do your books for you. So most accountants have a bookkeeper. I do my own books for 2 of the businesses. The other one I use Capiso. So they do my books and then they send the books to Alan, my accountant, and then he does everything else. But your accountant is probably doing your books without your knowledge.
Yeah, no, probably, to be fair, no, it is. He definitely is because I send off everything monthly and stuff. But just, I'd love to have those hard figures in front of me. Now, that's just me on mine. Now, obviously, I'm looking every month and I'm seeing what I am. Yeah. Okay.
Your P&L will go retrospective, and the P&L will be like the end of the P&L will be the first row in your forecast. And I'll send you a copy of that spreadsheet. In the first page that I didn't show, there's like links to all the tutorials and stuff. If anyone in the world's listening to it wants a copy, just drop me a message and I'll ship it over, or I'll actually put it in the show notes as well. But I'll ship over one of those because we have a really nice one that has like subscription and one-time revenue in the same one. So you can look at how much one-off revenue do I need to do every month to make up a difference between my monthly recurring revenue to actually be growing. But like monthly recurring revenue is obviously the cash is king variation of growth.
But everybody should be getting a P&L, and everybody should know, if you're in business, you should know how to read one. And it's a really good place to start. And then you can set up a forecast. You can put in what you took each month last year, where everything has gone. And then you'll have an idea of where you're going for the next year. I think it's really important.
Profit and loss. P&L is P.
Yeah, it's very humbling to do your own taxes at the end of the year and go through your receipts and stuff like that. Do you know what they say is like look at your bank account and that will tell you what your priorities are. My big priority is lunch. I don't usually offset them against tax or anything like that, but I'm like, I have to stop eating lunch. I got to take bananas with me. Like this is a serious cost.
Like I consider myself quite an organized person in general in life. And then also I look at my desk and I'm like, I really need to sort these receipts. Like, what is this?
See, I just use Capiso, so I just take pictures of my receipts. It's great.
Oh, nice. Actually,
nice.
Interested. Talk about what Capiso is. Did you talk about this on the podcast before? I think you did. You just take a picture of your receipts. It goes to the amazing...
And all my invoices, so all my petty cash goes, but they just do everything. They sort everything out, and then I just get a P&L at the end of the month. I can see where all the money's gone, and I can reimburse the petty cash as I need to do so. It does save me, and I'm a small business, so God knows what it would do for a bigger business, because it has made my life a lot easier and my accountant's life a lot easier as well, which is always important. Keep your accountant happy.
Nice. Okay, so we've gone on with this money talk. Has actually brought us a far longer episode than usual. So quickly, future money plans can be this week, this month, this year. What's your future, I suppose, hopes or manifestations, Jen?
Just get my vision board out. I think in 2024, the big milestone I have here in terms of what I'm tracking is like a solid, like 40% or so above profitability. I know we'll probably choose to eat into some of that as a result of the way tax is configured in the US. But just that, like, banking things, like I really want to get into a position where there's even like 3-4 months, I mean, ahead of ourselves a little bit. So we've because we've grown this way against investor money, we've kind of crossed it, and now we have to get into this position of going, okay, well, now there's X amount solid in the bank that if no money came in for X amount of months, that we'd actually be able to cover everyone's wages and all of the expenses. So there's like this kind of balancing act and then because of corporation tax in the US, there's a bit of this weird balancing game to play. But there's just some of that legwork around growth that is comfortably sustainable without like waking up in the night in sweats would be lovely.
That sweating is just, and I know the feeling. Shan, go to you next, please.
I have no limit to what I can earn next year. I'm, however, going to be really careful in how I earn it. I don't want to do stuff that I don't want to do anymore. So I hope that next year is a really good year financially. However, I'm more worried about how I make it. So I also want it to be a really enjoyable year and a really happy year. So my priorities are slightly different.
I'd actually second that. And Jay?
I think as well. And what Shan just said there is she wants the scenario of like a fuck you kind of scenario, like money, like, no, I don't want to, go fuck yourself. I'm happy to this. Kind of that, getting to that fuck you stage in the scenario where you're not taking that job because the bank is a bit low. It's not, you're not saying yes to a client that you don't like working with because, oh, look, it's $2,000 extra. Look, it'd be worth, it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the hassle. So I think it's just, as Shan said, get just steady and have enjoyment. Like, because as creatives, our work best comes when we're happy. Like if we're freaking depressed and we don't want to be there and I'm shooting your product or I'm doing a video for you, I don't care. Like it's just going to come across as, to record, I'm gone. So just be happy in your job. Balance, as Jen said as well, balance out the bank account where I have runway for a few months and just, get there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to mix. And I actually feel bad about giving out about manifestation because I know a lot of people who do it. And you know what? I actually do think that it works for some people. But I think I'm going to do a little bit more of that, a little bit more of the growth models and a little bit more of Excel and trying to, I suppose, figure out. But again, it's the same as yourselves. It's prioritizing happiness above earning income. Life is too short. If we were here forever, I'd be like, okay, let's earn. But we don't have a lot of time. And, you know, and also this cruise that I'm on, it's 14 days and it was €800. And that's all of your meals.
That's
breakfast,
unreal.
lunch and dinner. It's really inexpensive to cruise. So if you take nothing else from this, go and have a look at seascanner.com. It shows it's like Skyscanner, but for cruises. And we just have to get the flights to the place. So just that's the one part that's annoying when we're from Cork. There's only a certain amount of destinations that cruises go out from. And like, you know, I'm traveling with my mum who's in her mid-70s. So I was like, we go from Miami. And she's like, no. So Tenerife was a nice location to go from. But
Nice.
But lads, thanks a million for listening, all of you, and please do rate us and subscribe to us. You know that we do have the video version of this on YouTube as well. It's on Unbranded podcast. I can't remember. Just search it. You'll put it.
We'll put it in the show notes.
It's in the show notes. Thanks a million for listening, and we will see you again for episode 6 next week.